Not on this computer. Okay, cool. Okay, so sorry we missed that slide. Here we go. This is about how much it costs to collect buckets and process them. So I recommend for food waste collection, if it's just starting up, get buckets secondhand that have been used once, like these buckets. 30 litres is kind of the most that a human can carry without being potentially damaging their back regularly. So they're good because we got most of our buckets for less than £2 each, just used once. They do last a really long time. Collecting them is basically, so if you want to use an electric bike courier service, if you live in a town like London, Bristol, that has Zedify, they're like really good electric bike couriers. They quoted me £4 to collect people's bucket within like a 5-mile radius or 3-mile radius. I can't remember which, maybe less, maybe just 2. But anyway, £4 they said they could do it for, and that meant that they collect the bucket for me and take it to the tumbler. So basically I use that as the benchmark of like how much my driving around in a van collecting people's these buckets is worth currently. £4 to £5. Washing a bucket costs 50p. Don't do it for less than that unless you're happy to be paid £10 an hour or less. I'm happy to work for £10 an hour less. If you're paying someone to wash dirty, shitty, smelly buckets for you, you could. I found that I tend to have to pay them £15 cash, or if I've got like on a more regular payment system, £10 an hour is fine. But I did a bit of number crunching. It takes 2 minutes to wash a bucket with a pressure washer and sponge it and make it nice and clean. So if you've got somebody, could they do 30 buckets an hour, pay them 15 quid, 20 buckets an hour. It's sometimes nicer working at a slower pace anyway, then £10 an hour is fine. But what it boils down to is that just the collecting the bucket locally and washing it, you need to be aiming for around £5 if you're going to collect a full bucket of food waste from someone. So that's the kind of cost you can think about. Like if you're doing a service for someone and they're getting a food waste collection, whether it's a restaurant you work in or whatever, you kind of need to be paid about £5 to turn that bucket to start the process of turning that bucket into compost. Okay, so other jobs that you will have to think about. So that boils down to £5 roughly per bucket. If you do it from households, we've found that we had too many members when we were doing it for £8. I since put the price up to £10, and I've still got a trickling income that like slowly getting more members, but kind of don't want to rush because it's too busy already kind of thing. So basically £10. So it's giving you £3 to £5 there if you're collecting a bucket for £8 to £10 to do all the rest of the work involved in making complete compost. Because the aim of this is to use the collection of local organic matter to completely cover the cost of that transaction, and then the compost is all for regenerative farming. I mean, you can sell it, and that could be your profit if you and that's totally fine and cool. And then you can use that to start your own regenerative farming project, or you could just supply it to the community gardens. So that's what we do, and I've got a slide about that in a bit. But this is the 2 other jobs. You have to turn the compost. So you empty it out of the drawer. That's a job. It only takes like 5-10 minutes, but it's still the first turn. And you put it in the first resting bay. And then there has to be one more turn where you turn that whole pile into the final bay. I think about it as like the worm bay first and then the fungi bay. So, and then you can pretty much sell it from the fungi bay or supply it back to the members that have signed up, because everyone gives them, we give the members some of their nutrients back as composts. So yeah, those 2 jobs, that's a major job. Litter picking is a major job, but again, it's only a few minutes every time you're doing anything. You just pull out apple peels, and I'm hoping like eventually as we build a movement for this, we'll be able to just do some campaigns which will just get things like plastic apple labels taken out of the system, because there is a massive waste of time that they still exist. Same with bloody new sellotape on parcels. when that could be compostable. So the other cost is how long does it take to sell the compost? How long do you spend on social media? How long do you spend communicating with everyone that wants to buy some of your compost? And to be honest, I don't know. I don't know how much I spend that time I spend on that. You know, the phone just, yeah, it kind of takes a lot of our attention, but we don't really kind of see it as work. So it's kind of an unknown, but I hope that helps you sort of get some idea. As far as I can see, these are all the jobs: sales, turning, litter picking, collecting, washing the buckets. That's all the work that I can really think that I do. So yeah, composting capitalism. This is like what it hinges upon is us being able to supply people with and educate people to make, you know, about how the soil ecosystem really works, and it'll boil down to us being able to authoritatively say what's in our compost, because, you know, there's this whole kingdom of microorganisms that we need, and they're often very easily not there either in soil or compost because of kind of mismanagement, for want of a better word. So yeah, it isn't a myth that we can create compost that is worth £1 per kilo, and that's for agricultural use. I think there's a lot to learn to be able to do that, but that is true, and that saves farmers money compared to the conventional approach to chemical use, and this has been totally proven by the Soil Food Web School. Yeah, another good point is that if you make compost that isn't complete, that does have missing microbes, you can add the microbes afterwards, and that's a huge thing that we could totally tap into. And I just yeah, so it's like this idea of building a network of compost stations and also having a network of people that can use microscopes, because that's the biggest limit to the whole regenerative movement at the moment, is that we can't test soil. The biology in soil changes if you put it in a bag and send it very far, and it goes anaerobic. So we need local soil microscope labs as well as local composting sites to cut out all of the distances that we're using fossil fuels to do all this work. I just wanted to say that, just so you know, had a bit of an idea. I looked at our website sales, and we've sold just under 2.5 grand of compost since we started in lockdown 2020. And I put a note there that we haven't really tried to sell that compost. We just run a project about it, and people could see for themselves how much life it's got in it with all the worms and everything. And that's really the majority of our customers have been people that just like know that they need the life in their garden. And like one lady that runs the most stunning wildflower garden in Brighton has bought like, yeah, over like £700 worth of compost. It's incredible. So yeah, working, yeah, so just spreading, really we're just selling the full life of the garden. So this is a hugely important technology that I don't even know anyone doing it in the UK yet. I haven't made one yet, but I could. I've got all of these materials, and this is quite a movement, the Johnson Su bioreactors. You can watch their talks. They're really influential, and they've shown that there's just the most phenomenal amount of fungi it gets produced if you just leave organic matter in a pile with these air chimneys and you don't turn it at all. Like, how nice is that, not to have to turn it at all? The only thing is you do have to wait an entire year before. So you can put best part of 1,000 liters in that box on the right, but yeah, and you'd have to all you do is keep it, make sure it stays the right moisture and stuff. But yeah, it will be a very slow return on your compost. But then when you've got it and you've got it tested, it's worth loads. So I hope that's interesting, and we should make one sometime. So yeah, maybe this thing, I like the word true compost. Someone told me recently, like he said he ran a drinks company and it was really big, and they never used to be that way, but he realized it had to be because they needed to make money and they had to have consistency and stuff. And he said he was impressed because we brewed true kombucha, and we do brew true kombucha. It's like, you know, we don't do anything to it, pasteurize it. We do it with the yeast and bacteria and the whole ecosystem, and sometimes it's fucking weird and it's like, shit, we can't sell that batch. The same is true with compost. Like, you either use technology to change the nature of compost, because compost really just happens hot compost is kind of just a uniquely human thing. I mean, it's very rare that hot in nature that huge piles of shredded organic matter get mixed together. Anyway, I wanted to say that there is, I believe there is such a thing as true compost, and maybe it's a term we want to use to sort of reclaim what compost is, because it's not just a growing medium. It contains all of this life. This is like huge numbers of life. Protozoa eat bacteria, and there's 10,000 of them in every gram of soil, and that's how nutrient cycling happens and how plants get healthy. Same with nematodes. It's 100 nematodes in every gram of soil. But like what most of our soils are lacking now is fungi, which I think, yeah, you guys know it's because of tillage. So, okay, how is it worth £1,000 a ton? It's worth £1,000 a ton for regenerative agriculture because you don't apply it like normal growing medium. You don't just like chuck it on the top of the surface. Like, you can do that, and that's fine. You don't even need to have nice, beautiful, perfect, mature, finished compost to do that. You can just use stuff straight out of the tumbler, because that's full of biology and diverse fungi and bacteria. But what is important to appreciate is that there are ways of amplifying our effectiveness of spreading this biology, and they're really simple as well. And it's this kind of transition of like using, look at this picture, just stole from Google, of the backpack sprayer. Like, we have to protect ourselves from what we've put on our plants. But then I like this picture because this is just a regular person like us using the backpack sprayer, and she's spraying compost tea. And that is the future. It's so efficient to cover plants in microbes that they need, and the nutrients that they need with a backpack sprayer. It's great technology. And same with this 25-litre brew kit for compost tea. All you do is put a pound, is it a pound? Yeah, it was a pound, half a kilo of compost in, it's 2.5 pounds, which is about a kilo of compost in a 25-litre bucket. Add filtered rainwater or rainwater, and you bubble it with an air stone, and that amplifies the bacteria and fungi that are good so much that you can then spray it over a whole acre. Nicole Masters, who's an amazing author in this book, I couldn't really recommend more to anyone, is a great advocate of this. And she says that she can make compost just out of willow wood chips, earthworms and earthworm castings and fungi that she just leaves. She says that it costs her only 50p to make. She actually said 50 cents, which is less than that. She had 50 cents to make enough compost to farm an acre, full biology, which is just like ridiculous. You could so 1,000 liters of compost, you can make that go so far. And the other way is seed soaking. So this is one way, but the other way is seed soaking. So you use some of that life-giving compost to soak the seeds. You make compost extract to soak the seeds, and then they're coated in the good biology, and they grow better. So these are the regenerative approaches that kind of support the value of the kind of compost we can all make. A quick one about bokashi, but maybe we won't spend too long here. It's a useful enzyme. I think I've talked about it already. The best supplier company in Agriton in Somerset. It's really carbon efficient, even though it's mainly bacteria. It doesn't give off much CO2, and it kind of ferments your food waste for you. And it's useful because it reduces smells in the summer, and you can chuck a bit in the bottom of the bucket, and everyone has it makes better use of bucket space. I think that's really significant, actually. If you have people filling the buckets up with like really big, bulky, airy stuff, that's like way less effective than if it's all pickled down into a nice kind of moist soup, which you can just mix with carbon and then make nice compost. So yeah, bucket sizes. I talked about the 30-litre ones. I just wanted to hail this bucket in the corner. We've had this one plastic bucket running for 6 years, using it every week. We take it out, and it's just absolutely fine. I think they're amazing things to last so long and do a job for so long. One thing though is we need to get more knowledgeable about our plastics, because yeah, all of it is HDPE, high density polyethylene, but the flexible ones, like this brewery bucket, it's got a slight flex to it, and it's way more durable in the winter. In the summer, way more durable in the winter, because we found that freezing temperatures can crack the more brittle plastics. So we need to sort of learn about that a bit more. But yeah, I actually think these 17-litre buckets are the way to go now. I just wanted to put that out there, because obviously if you're like in a rickshaw or a vehicle, it's going to be, you're going to get more square buckets in there than you are round buckets. So I think that's quite an important thing to think about. I got these buckets new for £4 each, and then like put the spray painted a logo on them. So it's kind of costing me like, I don't know, a £5 for the bucket, which yeah, I think it's worth it. And you know, if you, that's like a month of a membership subscription you might get to a household or a business for one bucket. So a couple of extra tips about making compost bays and stuff. So this, yeah, laying foundations, you guys might have a question. You could start a row of compost bays anywhere, but you're going to need to stop vegetation sort of swamping it, otherwise that'll be another cost. So this one I've just used reclaimed slabs. You can kind of find them for free really easily. I don't use cement or anything like that. I just put them down. I actually use shredded sawdust or wood chip to put them on. But it just helps you have a footprint, and then you can mow around it if the grass starts getting too invasive. Coach bolts, if you're using wood, are the best screws I think in the world. They never split. They're these like hexagonal head ones. They're quite good price from Screwfix, 5 to 10p depending on how many you buy. They are really good. I wouldn't have like been able to do loads of stuff without those screws. So there's a point there. They're really quick for building bays. The cheapest way of making a bay is with that wire mesh. Again, you get it from Screwfix. It's mouse proof and stuff. And this is also a way of transforming food waste into compost if you don't have enough tumbler space. Really, I've got to show you this, like a sped up version of this one on the Soul Food Web course. But if you could just imagine the center of that pile is hot. That's the only bit that is killing all the weed seeds. So all you need to do to make complete compost with a system like that is turn the pile so that every bit, the top, the middle, and the bottom, spends time in the hot middle. So you guys can probably figure that out. We'll do a workshop in it at some point in real life, and it'll be good. But yeah, mix of roughly 30% high nitrogen, 30% high carbon, and 30% green waste, and you've got a good formula for a really good compost if you want to do it like that. It's quite easy to play with that wire when you get used to it, but it's a bit of a fiddle sometimes. Although again, really low labor. I use bungees to attach it. I think that's quite efficient. Yeah, carbon is super, like, you know, I actually don't have any of Carbon members left. We did have 2 and they were very happy. I delivered them 100 litres of carbon every month for their composting, and they said it completely transformed their composting. I was doing it for £12.50 a month, and now I've got 2. There's a few Jora farms in Brighton that have had funding, which I deliver 100 litres of carbon to every month for £12.50. If you ever need to do that, maybe Hannah, maybe you're shredding cardboard, maybe you could just sell some cardboard to people, shredded cardboard to people to make good compost. It literally transformed their compost. Like Sophie left the most amazing review. She said, there's so many worms, so many, you know, so much life, and my plants are doing so well as a result of her not just having, you know, nitrogen inputs, having enough carbon to balance the compost heat. So yeah, like this idea of spreading these permaculture systems, these grassroots, community-led permaculture systems. I am kind of happy with the compost project we're doing at the moment. I'm not making much like money. We're turning over like only about £500 a month on average at the moment, but it's just me and Kwame sharing a few days work a month. And then we've got great relationships with people like Peter here, who's a community gardener, and they love the fact that we've got our composter with them, and we've given them half of the compost for siting it in the middle of Brighton, so we don't have to transport it very far. The food waste, we can send, like, you know, 200 litres of food waste, which we get paid to take there a month, and they get half the compost, and we get the other half to do our projects with. I think that's like quite a good model, and this like this thing about building beneficial relationships. You've got 3 different relations here. There's compost makers, that's like us, food waste givers, people that are up for subscribing to not waste their food waste, and then the community growers. And in cities, I think that's all we need. I guess, yeah, on the biggest sort of really to supply regenerative agriculture, we're going to need to be doing it on the like climate compost scale, because there's a lot of land that's degraded. And then just a bit about kind of collectively giving compost a rebrand, like giving composting a rebrand. I couldn't find a good image, but you've all seen like images of compost heaps. There's just like, they just look like a pile of crap, you know? And I really think that we can, you know, be the people that sorted that shit out. And yeah, I think just, I don't know, these drawers, they're good bits of technology. They're good bits of technology. But what it's really about is celebrating the stories of what we can produce with the life in the soil. You know, most people couldn't tell you what a nematode or microarthropod is, and these are the creatures that composting incubates, which really do so much work for our entire existence on the planet. And that, you know, that picture in the right hand corner, that was some really old compost that was just like spent apple pulp and stuff, and we just covered it on this dusty dead area in front of a wasted building, and put some saplings in, and that's what you get 3 months later. It's like, it's so powerful. So yeah, I think that's what I really wanted to say. I've only gone over by a few minutes, so I hope that's okay. And let's have a little Q&A. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to share. Nikki Scott is going to be our next guest. I've got a really good chat with him. I've got a really good kind of email thread with him, and he is an absolute inspiration. He's been doing compost, he's a compost doctor. He's been doing it in Devon for many decades now, and has written multiple books and done illustrations and stuff. He also invented this hot bin thing. It's called the Scotty hot bin, and it's made out of recycled plastic lumber, which is a material I really recommend. Actually, if you get some funding to build a composter, don't use wood. I use wood because I think of it like my activism, because the building trade wastes 30% of all its materials that it's using at the moment. It's so insane, and a huge amount of that is wood. So because I drive around in a van, I kind of do it to like pay off my bad conscience. I basically always go and collect all of this wood out of skips, and I use that to build the compost bays. But then you've got to stain the wood if it's not treated, and I kind of, you know, making a rod for my own back by using wood. If you can use this material, it's recycled lumber, 90% recycled plastic, 10% recycled wood fiber. It lasts forever and a day. Like the Woodland Trust and National Trust are using it to make their jetties and things that are permanently in water out of. It couldn't be a better solution for a final stage compost bay. You don't need to have any air gaps in the final stage compost bay, by the way, because all the aerobic biology is so potent, you can kind of like shut it down, and there'll be plenty of air passageways that have been created by the biology in there already. And I actually recommend that now. Creates much more sealed bays for the final one. So yeah, I hope that's helpful too. You can look up Scotty Hotbox and see some better images than that. And anyway, I'm going to get Nikki on for the next session, so we can ask him everything we want. Nice one. Please ask me some questions so I can stop talking. Cool. Is everyone still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. I can keep talking if you want. There might not be any questions, and that's fine.
Questions?
Yeah, sure. No, nice one, Hannah.
Which to choose? I know you do like educational courses and like talking about compost and things. Is that part of Compost Club, or are you?
Yeah, I do it all through Old Tree Soil. So if like someone says they'll pay me to do a composting workshop, I'll just send them an invoice from Old Tree Soil, because it's so much easier just to have one file where you put all your invoices on your computer, and then at the end of the day you've got to do some accounts and you can just use that. That's all the money you took. And
are you, are you teaching community members, or are you reaching out to farmers ever?
I haven't got to, so I haven't got there yet, but like I've been like, there's this farmer on the edge of Brighton, and I've been like stalking them, kind of thing. Like I see them doing stuff, and I'm just I like, in my head I've gone up to loads of times and started a conversation, but I don't think I'm quite ready yet. I think
it's big.
It's really big. There's so many ways you could do it where they just be like, fuck off. And it's going to be quite hard to actually get them to sort of meet you and accept that you know, from the city, are going to have more knowledge or wisdom than them. So yeah, no, farmers.
So start with the education in the community, and then maybe there'll be some farmer people there.
Totally.
That way, and hey.
Totally. And again, it's like the scale thing. I hope you guys got a sense, but like, to do the agricultural scale, like, I mean, I don't know, the Jura, you know, you can create a ton or two out of one Juraform a year of like really nice compost. So, you know, that's still worth something for an agricultural site. But the thing is, the farmers are so in the sort of trap of like economies of scale. They'll think they'll need way more compost. They won't believe us at first when we say they only need this much, and because they'll have to change their whole process of like, they can't buy the treated seeds. They'll have to like biologically inoculate the seeds, and it's going to be so different. So, you know, yeah.
So with the inoculum, though, that you're saying that the compost we produce is like an inoculum, so you'd only use a small amount per, I don't know, meter squared, or is there? Do you know like the kind of ratio that you might?
I know that. I mean, there's, they've got good evidence of the Soil Food Web School that a farmer can pay £1,000 a ton and spread that over their land and have higher yields with less inputs and more profit. And that's cheaper. It's cheaper for them to do that than to carry on the way they were going. But I mean, that's because where they were going was it was like the unraveling of the entire soil historical, you know, all of the value was being washed away. So it's like it's cheaper for them to do that because they're already in such a desperately bad place. So you know, then again, maybe we don't want to go down this, like, maybe we never want to tell farmers that our compost is worth £1,000 a ton. Maybe that's just like the last thing we want to do. I don't know. We need to, maybe we could just give them some to try, like, and maybe that would be a good way of sort of changing their mind.
Would organisations like the Soil Association be interested in this, or are they too rooted in their own practices?
I mean,
they're doing a lot of stuff with regenerative farmers at the moment.
Totally. I mean, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, the Soil Association, it's one of, it's, you know, it's totally, deep down they know they the philosophy and the science and everything is all there, but they're a big organization. They've got lots of salaries to pay, and some of the things they've had to do to sort of make their accreditation system legitimate is detrimental to, compared to this full, you know, this more sort of I don't know what the word is, this just the full biology approach, basically, rather than like more contextual compensation that they sort of had to do to meet farmers' needs. Yeah.
Tom, I've got a similar question around sort of educational content and courses and things. So something that I'm potentially going to be doing soon, kind of into essentially like our main sort of funder. And so kind of what we're looking to do is like to create a little bit more of an online presence so we can sort of like get our project out there a little bit more. And I'm not sure if you could give me any information on sort of how many hours you think it would take to sort of design and build a series of sort of short courses or a short course around sort of composting and and soil health. And I don't know if you've sort of got any insight into that at all.
I mean, yeah, man, it's something I think I want to do too. And I've looked into it a bit. There's two platforms that I think are worth checking out, Teachable and Samcart. They're like the platforms that can host it for you.
Right.
Samcart, I kind of got sold on, and I basically, yeah, I think that looks really good. And really all you need to do, what most people want, you can do in a PowerPoint presentation. Like you can have video, you can have you know, enough text, you can have a questionnaire, you can kind of do it. So really Samcart was like a platform you just upload that to, and that would give you a one page, they call it like a one page funnel. And then you can basically create one page where you've got a really good video, and you can completely sell that, and then you can make that go on social media kind of thing. So yeah, it's something that I can't really share a huge amount of info on yet, but I would say break it down into 6 or between like 4 and 6 juicy parts, and then like start working on each chapter by chapter, and then film it.
So that's something that you've actually been considering doing for a while, is it? Or you've been sort of
I want to do it really bad.
Well, we could potentially organize a chat at a later date about it. I mean, the guys that are funding us are really sort of interested in like the whole storytelling educational side of the whole process, and it's something that like they're potentially willing to fund. So I mean, if you wanted to have a chat at another time about it, we could potentially do that. And I don't know if that at all, obviously what Lucas was saying about his work with storytelling and that kind of stuff, and yeah, interesting.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good.
Right, I was muted then. I'm more than happy to do that. I've created a lot of community workshops before that are quite flexible with what you're framing it around. So I'm more than happy to spend some time shaping some kind of different workshops and different levels of engagement, different levels of entry for people as well. If that's of help, I'm more than happy to do that. That
would be really, really amazing, I think.
Cool.
I mean, it certainly could be something as sort of like a collaborative project across sort of, you know, Old Tree Soil, Loop, and these various things, you know, sort of coming together with our various resources and sort of creating something that we could actually put out there.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And we could easily do it like, you know, we could sort of just do it like a percentage of, you know, the sales to sort of remunerate the time investment we put in.
You know, if schools are doing much composting,
that's something that Nicky Scott will be able to shed loads of info on. He says that composting in schools is one of the easiest and most rewarding avenues for sort of composting.
Great.
Every
you could run a workshop at school, couldn't you, and then kind of, you know, inspire them to get involved in that.
Great,
wicked.
Well, let's definitely try and talk about that sometime soon then.
Great, because I mean, also, I mean, just to mention, Ben, you're using the Rydan, like, so there's 2 types of compost tumblers really that are like worth buying at the moment, and there's the Joraform, which is the Swedish one, which I mainly use, and then there's the Rydan, which is made by 2 guys in Devon, and Ben Rydan, Richard and Dan, and Ben runs one of those, and it's a big one, and it's by on paper it looks like it actually processes about 3 to 4 times more food waste per month than the biggest Joraform, which, because it's continuous. However, from chatting to Peter McFadden, it sounds like, you know, that depends on what carbon you use. So we use waste carbon, wood chips and stuff, because it's free. But what you'd really need to use a Rydan to get that extra food waste capacity processing out of it is wood pellets, and they are like compacted wood chips, which is another cost you'd have to factor in. So
we've recently sourced some just shredded wood chips, which we think is going to increase the amount of food waste that we can put through it, which is good.
Nice.
My friend lives in Freeman. He's a carpenter.
Nice.
He's got quite a big workshop So there's probably quite a lot of wood chip that you
What's
can
his
use.
name? Sorry, Lucas.
I can introduce you. His name's Ed Manders. I'm in Froome quite a lot. A couple of my best friends live there, so I'm in Bristol. So I'll drop him a message and ask him how much wood chip he's got, and yeah.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, wood chip, wood planings, if anyone's got a planer thicknesser in a workshop, that is like,
He's got all of it. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have like an email, Lucas, that I could potentially drop you?
Yeah. Hang on, I'll show it in here if anyone wants to.
Thank you, bro.
yeah, put it in the WhatsApp chat. Yeah, great.
Oh, cool. Right. Sorry. So Lucas is in the chat, is he, in the WhatsApp group?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We all are.
Yeah.
Cool. Fantastic. Sorry, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy to chat more. Like, definitely, like, get in contact. You know, it's all about collecting.
Totally, that's what it's all about, this carbon economy kind of thing. Because I got stuck with a restaurant. They really wanted a composter. They really wanted to buy 3 Duraforms off of me, but it broke down because I realized that they didn't actually want to make really nice compost. And when I suggested that they would either have to, like, you know, create the storage space to get local carbon, or shred cardboard, or, you know, I kind of said, look, if you break this down, it's going to cost you like 20-30 pounds a month to get this carbon that you need, you have to have. And it's sort of, it meant that they lost the sort of will to do it, because there was this extra input that they needed to buy, you know. And so then it was just like, okay, I realized that they want these Duraforms just because they get to look less wasteful, not because they want to do anything to do with regenerating the earth. They just want to run a business that has a green brand, and these Duras would have been a ticket for that. And so, yeah, we kind of got to draw that line quite strongly, like composting to heal the earth, or composting as waste reduction. And yeah.
One thing just to add to finding those kind of little pockets of resource that Danny said as well, right, kind of looking at your community. We did a lot of stuff before around network ecology, and kind of like looking at it like a mycelium network, and kind of going, what's happening in our locality? Where are the places where waste is coming? Obviously food waste, but, like, for example, where are the local carpenters? Like, where are the people that are just chucking waste? Like, and I'm sure you're absolutely thinking of this, but thinking of that, like,
Yeah,
you know, that sort of small ecosystem scale.
Yeah, totally.
I've got a question.
Yes, please.
I think one of the challenges we're facing is we are filled up the composters super quick. So, and I'm also in talks with a few other people that are interested in doing it, and actually a restaurant that I've got a ride on, and they produce so much waste that they're filling it up. And so I was just wondering, when you're sort of charging a restaurant, what kind of figures are you looking at if you're collecting, or B, just how you can scale it up? What's the best way to scale it up? Is it just keep buying Duraforms, you know, until you've got loads of it, or is it there a better way?
Yeah, the better way, Chris, is windrows, community composting with windrows. But you're going to need, unless you've got, like, you know, an army of people with pitchforks that are up for putting in loads of energetic work twice a week, you're going to need a vehicle with a towy turner thing, a tractor, basically. Yeah. So then that's a bit of an investment. But then again, you know, you could do a small windrow. You could do like a 5-ton windrow. Basically, what I know about that is that if you don't want food waste to putrefy and attract rats and stuff, you need to turn it at least twice a week. So, but that's only for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then it goes past its like food stage, which will attract rats and stuff. You know, it's that hot middle thing. You need to make sure everything gets in the hot middle, and you need to do that at least twice a week for the first 2 and a bit weeks, 5 times in the first 15 to 21 days. So yeah, obviously that's Duraforms are more efficient on a human scale to do that. So yeah, if you can afford the capital cost to get funding for the Duraforms, then do that, because it saves all the labor. But you know, if you've got so much food waste that you're kind of drowning in it, then maybe it's worth spending those 10 grand on a tractor that could just turn a windrow. I know that's where that's my thinking on that. I think that helps.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks.
Cool.
Do you collect from restaurants currently?
No, I stopped that. So me and Mikey kind of split Compost Club in a really bad way. It was really regrettable. I would want to share about that actually. Like, if you set up a company, write a memorandum of understanding between your, you know, so like define what your organization does, and then write something about how you want you know, what you want to be respected in your organization. Because me and Mikey, we never sort of drew any lines, and so we didn't really know what it was sort of crossed them, and we've lost a really good friendship over how different, what ended up being different visions for the same thing. So yeah, what ended up happening is that he went and did businesses, and I focused on well, he carried on doing households, but his thing was businesses, whereas that was burning me out. I didn't want buckets every week. I wanted buckets every 3 weeks. It was a rhythm that I could like work to. So yeah, he's ended up doing the business collections, which you do have to do on a weekly basis, which is much more work. So yeah, I focus on households, but I mean, I could consider doing businesses again, but I don't think I'd do them. Unless you could get like 3 drawers in one place, like I wouldn't do businesses, because I'm more about like that neighborhood scale now. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to build these composting stations, and they're like really great places that people can come and do the composting, and like we can use them for I could use them for the collection rounds. And then we've also got these local members, the giant earthworms, and they pay like a few pounds a month to be able to take their own compost in and save money. And they still get loads of compost a year, and that kind of works, because then you've got extra people coming to turn the tumbler for you. And I guess it's this like kind of like what you were just saying, Lucas, this like community mapping kind of energy map. Like, that's very much that inspiration too, which was what kind of really, yeah, that attracted me a lot more. It's when you're getting into this, like, businesses currently pay this much for, you know, the ton. Food waste has a ton price at the gate. It's called like the gate fee, and at the moment I think it's around £100 a ton. So that's the price that a factory that makes biogas will pay for a ton of food waste. So, you know, paper round that we can intercept and say, we'll do all the cardboard instead of them, we'll collect all your food waste instead of them, we can match their fee. Like, that's fine. We could get businesses to just switch from a big corporation to us, nice humans on a local scale, and we could do that. But at the end of the day, they're going to get £100 for 5 of those wheelie bins. They've only got to clean out 5 wheelie bins. Are we going to get £100 for a ton of food waste? Like, well, maybe, especially if we can sell the compost. But it's that kind of thing we got to like think about. Maybe if there is a biodigested plant starting in your area, like there are lots happening now all over the country. This is going to be a lot of change in this area. But maybe we talk to the biodigester company and say, look, we've got all these people that give us their food waste, and you know, how much are you going to pay us? I don't know. But at the end of the day, we don't want their sludge. We need full biology compost. So that's another thing to talk to them about, is what you're going to do with all your sludge, and we need to hold them to account, and we need to say, you're not going to put that in any of these ecosystems or straight on the soil, because it's just going to wash off into the rivers and kill.
Yeah, can I just say something about
Danny,
that?
hi.
Hey Tom, how you doing, man?
Good, man.
On a sort of,
just wanted to
on a
say,
local,
yeah, sorry, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Danny. Danny's like catalyzed this whole thing. So thank you, Danny.
And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, buddy.
Mhm.
Yeah, what I was going to say is on a local level in Bristol, what we have is a lot of these kind of big, massive, actually, waste bins that cafes and restaurants and stuff like have outside. And they absolutely stink. You know, they reek because everything's rotting inside them. And it's just really horrible, particularly in summertime. It's awful. We're sort of past peak smell now, but like, you know, it's really just like not good for like little areas. And so what I found is I've started conversations with kind of clusters of cafes around kind of like what they're doing. And it's been really slowly incremental conversations, finding out how much they pay to kind of get rid of the waste and how much waste they produce, and talking to their customers about the smell of it. And the customers going, yeah, man, it's like really like horrible. But, you know, and then realizing that there can be another way, and sort of building the stakeholders really and trying to get everybody involved in solving the problem before sort of like, you know, kind of introducing this idea, well, we could do this differently, and we could actually be part of like a positive story for Bristol, which might attract people to your restaurant if they know that you're part of the scheme.
Yes.
So it's just really nice kind of like building community through the problem solving as well. I think there's a way around this. It doesn't have to be kind of like necessarily playing the game of, you know, this price point. You know, I think we need to start thinking about moving beyond price point. And with that comes the storytelling and the community building that helps us get there. Because we're never going to win that kind of battle of kind of economies of scale. You know, capitalism doesn't work like that. You know, exploits constantly. So you know, cuts all the costs out. So yeah, that's my thinking on that anyway.
I like that, Danny. Yeah, good point, man. I think whatever you guys do, you should do a approved label, window sticker. That was a winning thing that we did. We did a Compost Club approved window sticker, and we gave it to the businesses that we had on board at the beginning. And, you know, they were well happy to put it in their window because it was like a badge of you know, doing something better. So yeah, like what you were saying, Danny, that story, get them part of that story. And that's the key for businesses, especially that really care about their, you know, Wicked. Well, we've gone over by half an hour, guys. Kind of standard behavior. But Danny's only just joined us, so I kind of want to carry on. But also,
can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
What do you make of these like machines that people can rent that they put the food waste in and they basically get like compost at the end of it?
Yeah, 24-hour compost.
Yeah,
so they're well, it's not compost. That doesn't make compost. It kind of makes it is aerobic, but like it only uses one type of bacteria. So it's like it is monoculture compost. Like and when you put that in the outside, it will like bloom into all these mold gardens. You know, it's more like a compost activator. It's like you took the food waste and you turned it into bacterial biomass, and then you can use that to start a composting process. But you know, and it'll get really hot really quickly. We used to use it to get big heaps really hot, because Silo, the restaurant we used to supply, had one, and yeah, we got one working, but it doesn't. I don't recommend it. They use a lot of power, and the compost isn't that good, and you still got to empty the door and fill it every day. Like every day, you know, that's a lot of like attention you've got to give this machine, and a load of energy, and like a big investment cost of plumbing it in. Maybe it's good for like a big restaurant, like doing more plates than like Silo was ever doing, like, you know, because you can put a hell of a lot of food waste through those things. But yeah, they cost 20 grand, so kind of out of the question really, aren't they? I get a tractor. If you can get 20 grand together, get a tractor and a barn.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, the people that I'm talking to, actually, they don't care if it's more money. They want to do it right, and they've got a shitload of food waste.
But I had to take Silo's compost, you know, kind of as a volunteer at that point anyway, and turn it into nice compost. They tried giving it to like their customers. They tried growing their plants outside their restaurant with it. They all died. Like, it doesn't work. It's not compost.
Yeah.
So it's again, it's all just waste reduction and turning them into, you must be wasting a lot of gases and stuff as well. It's not, yeah, not convinced. And there's the company that was supplying them isn't really doing it anymore. I think that's kind of sign that it wasn't popular enough.
So
but
I'm wondering how much space you need to do the windrow thing, and how that, you know, what kind of capacity per, you know, square footage.
I mean, if you just look at composting on Wikipedia, I'll just show you. There's a picture of 2 community scale windrows. That is all you need. That is a windrow right there. Can everyone see? Yeah, I mean, those are 2 windrows. That's how Climate Compost do it. They just put it in a big 1 meter squared bank, and they have 2 of them, and then, or, you know, they have however many they need, and they just run the trailer thing through it, so that the top becomes the hot middle, and the middle becomes the top, and then the bottom becomes the middle. And, you know, they just do that 5 times over the first couple of weeks, and they've got rid of the putrefying stage. I'm pretty much certain that you can't beat that for efficiency of labor and energy use in terms of composting large amounts. Certainly in America, there's lots of composting enterprises now that have started off the back of the Soil Food Web School and stuff, and they do it like that. They do it in windrows. So yeah, that's the scalable way, but it doesn't have any community engagement. The nice thing about drawers is that it does have some human engagement and interaction, whereas this has got the tendency to, you know, the potential to go more down the road of just like, you know,
Industrialized.
We work for the machine kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I do have another question. I obviously realize I'm asking a lot of questions, but just
right.
If you've got time for one more.
As long as no one's getting bored and it's fine, then I'm fine.
Feel free to leave if it's pretty boring. Have you tried doing the terra preta thing of digging the hole and putting it in the ground? And at what stage do you, because obviously I'm assuming the Amazon, they weren't making charcoal and adding it to compost. It was like all one process, or do we not know enough about that process yet?
I mean, the truth is, man, every soil is so different on the planet that some soils will do really well with biochar and some soils won't need it as much. And it might even be detrimental for some soils. I don't know. It was really important in the Amazon because they had such thin topsoil and it could hold such little water and it ran off. And but yeah, so it's really important in areas like that. But then there's like, okay, so there's this chart is so important. And yeah, basically it all depends what plants they want to grow and what their soils are really like. So yeah, to grow most of the things that really support most people, these last 4 stages, the answer is you need more fungi. But it's not just that. There are other things that will factor it as well, like magnesium, calcium, things like that will depend how healthy your plants are. But it is largely, considering how far we've come down the industrial agriculture road, a case of a lack of fungi. So the last thing we want to be doing is just using one bacteria to convert all of our valuable diverse food nutrients and then spread that one bacteria on a field. That's the last thing we want to do. Open composting, outdoor composting where spores from the local forest have had a chance to digest some of that stuff, organic matter and organic carbon as well. All of that's going to add to the diversity and fungal abundance that can help us regenerate the soil to support more human food producing stuff as well as wildlife producing stuff.
Thanks, man.
John, can I quickly ask a question? You mentioned, I think, that you were planning on giving a talk on how to make the cardboard shredder.
Oh yeah.
Make your own.
I did, yeah. And I spoke to the company, Hannah. I'll share this with you now. And they were like, yeah, we'd be up for this, but we're too busy at the moment. Call us back in a bit. So what I was proposing is that they're called Engineers Mate, and they're in Midlands somewhere. Engineers Mate, they're super friendly. They know everything about all of the motors that you need to turn any. You can buy a set of shredder blades on eBay for like a few £100s. And then all you need to do is connect that to a motor that can turn them. But you want to get a good motor with one that you can turn it in reverse. So if it gets jammed, you can just reverse and it just pulls the stuff back out. And I spent a couple of £100 on that motor, and a couple. Actually, no, I actually spent a bit more on that. So I spent the best part of £1,000 on this shredder. But the engineer's mate was super helpful. They gave me all the information for free. Look at plastic, Precious Plastics. It's the same shredder that they use, Precious Plastics. And ask to chat to one of their engineers as well. That would be a good shout, because they're all about open sourcing these recycling solutions.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
No worries. Nice one. Cool. Well, that was. I enjoyed that. I hope you guys did too.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, sorry to
Thanks.
miss you, Danny, but
Cheers, Tom. Yeah.
um,
It was amazing.
awesome. Yeah, Danny, would you like? We could end with like 1 minute of where you're at, because we haven't introduced you properly yet. You really need an
Okay.
introduction. But you want
Where
to,
I'm at,
with because you're doing Bristol Living Soil, right? And I know you're doing a million other things as well, and like no pressure, but just
yeah, so we are basically in a bit of a battle for our site. So we got offered a site, and yeah, just sort of logistical conversations around that really. We've got loads of sort of customers that are kind of ready for us to kind of start, and we've got lots of people on the team that want to kind of like get involved, volunteers that is, and yeah, all looks like it will be really positive, but it's just about kind of like, I don't want to kind of start somewhere and have to move somewhere. Like I've had a bad experience in Bristol with being evicted from a project. We ran a big project called Hamilton House in Bristol, which is a big community centre, and we were evicted 2 years ago. And it's like, actually not really up for that again. Where I kind of cite something, I'd like it to be kind of like to have a home for, at least like a couple of years minimum.
oh yeah.
And ideally longer. So it's been really about building those relationships and trying to get the kind of contracts right. So that's been our hold up here in Bristol, and that's other people like Maddie, for example, we kind of more like, yeah, why don't we just go for it somewhere? But I'm a bit like, nah, let's do it right.
Make it right, yeah.
But yeah, it's been also maybe a bit of a kind of slow process recently because I've been away, but back in Bristol now and moving things forward, so that's good. We've got a really nice link up with someone who used to work for Chuffed, which is a crowdfunder platform. He used to kind of like help people organize all of their crowdfunders, and so he's working with us to put together a little crowdfunding campaign. He's been super successful, so we're looking to get a lot of the initial capital for things like shredder and Duraforms and blah 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 to begin with, so that we've got a nice sort of setup, and not having to invest like a lot of our own personal money into it. And we've got some really nice connections as well within Bristol Food Network. Though lots of people who've been working on food policy, and there's I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head actually, but there was kind of like a report that was been written in, and the council are kind of using as a bit of a blueprint, and the missing part is on composting. So we've been asked to kind of like write a piece about our project and submit it to that. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on in Bristol at the minute.
Nice, man. That sounds cool. It's exciting. Yeah, everyone's interested in composting suddenly. It's quite cool, isn't it? There's a lot of media attention compared to normal times. So yeah.
Thanks for linking up in Bristol, Danny. I'm in Bristol myself as well.
Yeah. I want to come.
Do you know, there's another guy as well who's just been he's part of another project in South Bristol who is going to be starting a compost project there, and it looks like it's going to be really exciting because it's working with the local community in a very, very connected way, as part of Heart of BS13. Guy called I forgot what his name is actually, but he he's started a few projects in Bristol before, and so he knows what it takes to really lift something off the ground. So yeah, there's a few of us that probably need to hook up.
Yeah, great.
Wicked. We should have a Bristol convergence. I'd be up to come in. I'm in Bristol, just to let everyone know, apple picking on the Thursday the 21st of December, October. October. So if anyone is free, it'd be great. We could meet up and staying in Keynsham, and yeah, just trying to get as many people at meeting up in Orchards as possible. So just putting that out there. Awesome.
All right, I'll be there.
Wickedly, it's nice seeing you, man. All right, guys, great meeting. Thanks for the great questions and all, and yeah, see you next
Nice to meet you all.
Amazing. Cheers, everyone.
Brilliant.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers. Bye.